when Sarah Amani received a text from her ex-boyfriend, Jake. After 3 long years of silence, her heart raced. The message was simple, but it carried an unexpected weight. It read, "There's something I need to tell you. Can we talk?" As she sat alone in her quiet apartment, staring at her phone, which was still glowing in her hand, memories flooded back. Memories of love, anger, regret, fear, and a decision that had changed the course of both their lives forever. Sarah had spent the last 3 years piecing her life back together. She had built a routine that revolved around her career, hobbies, and the occasional midday meals with friends. She had learned to enjoy her own company, the independence that came with it, and the joy of no longer tiptoeing around another person's moods. Yet, no matter how far she moved forward, the scar Jake had left behind remained. The text threatened to reopen everything she had tried so hard to bury. She stared at the screen, her mind racing. Why now? What could he possibly have to say after all this time? 3 years earlier, Sarah had fallen for Jake with a force she didn't think possible. Their connection had been instant, their chemistry undeniable. They were the couple everyone envied, laughing in cafes, whispering secrets in the dark, and exploring the city hand in hand. But love, as Sarah would learn, could be both beautiful and destructive. When Sarah discovered Jake's betrayal, it was like her world collapsed. The trust she had given so freely was shattered. She remembered the night she found out the messages on his phone, the sickening realization, the confrontation that left her sobbing on the bathroom floor. Jake had apologized, of course, but by then the damage was irreparable. The message lingered on her screen, unanswered, for hours. Sarah tried to focus on her work, her books, even the plants she had spent the morning tending to, but her mind kept drifting back. She found herself pacing the room. Anxiety flowed through her veins as she considered her options. Should she ignore him? Should she confront him? What if he wanted to apologize? Or worse, what if he wanted her back? Her heart raced at the thought. Finally, after hours of consideration, she typed, "What do you want to talk about?" Hitting send with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. The response came almost immediately, "Can we meet, please?" She hesitated, but eventually agreed, choosing the cafe they used to frequent. It felt safe, familiar. Yet, as the day of the meeting approached, she couldn't shake the knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. The cafe was just as she remembered, bustling, warm, filled with the comforting hum of chatter and clinking mugs. She arrived early, choosing a secluded corner table. As she waited, her fingers traced the rim of her coffee cup, her thoughts spiraling. She was no longer that girl who had loved Jake blindly. She had grown stronger and more independent over the years. When Jake walked in, she almost didn't recognize him. He looked older, thinner, his usual confidence replaced by something softer, almost hesitant. But his smile still held that familiar charm that once captivated her heart. "Hey," he said softly, as he took a seat across from her. "Hey," she replied, her tone cool but steady. Their initial exchange was awkward, filled with polite pleasantries that did little to mask the tension. Sarah couldn't help but notice how much he had changed. His eyes, once so vibrant, now seemed clouded with weariness. Finally, Jake broke the ice. "I've missed you," he said, his gaze searching hers. She raised an eyebrow. "You didn't seem to miss me when you were with someone else." He flinched, her words hitting their mark. "I deserve that," he admitted, his voice heavy with regret. "But I need to tell you something. Something important." Jake's hands trembled as he spoke. "Sarah, I'm HIV positive." I was, even when we were together." The words hung in the air, like a death sentence. Sarah's heart raced as shock turned into disbelief. The revelation struck like lightning. She felt as if someone had punched her in the gut. She thought the floor beneath her had vanished, leaving her suspended in a void of disbelief and rage. "What?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I didn't know. Until after we broke up," he continued, his tone pleading. "I thought you should know, in case." Sarah's mind raced. Had he known? Had he lied? Was her own health at risk? Anger surged within her, hot and unrelenting. She wanted to scream, to throw her coffee in his face, to lash out at the man who had brought so much pain into her life. But she remained frozen, her hands trembling as they gripped the edge of the table. Jake's voice broke through her fury. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Sarah. I've been fighting this battle alone for so long. The doctors say I don't have much time left. I needed to tell you before it's too late." Sarah stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. Jake looked up at her, his expression a mix of desperation and guilt. "I need time," she said, her voice cold and firm. Without another word, she walked out of the cafe, the door closing behind her with a decisive bang. In the weeks that followed, Sarah grappled with a storm of emotions. She sought therapy, confided in close friends, and immersed herself in activities that brought her peace, painting and long walks in the park. Slowly, she began to reclaim the sense of control Jake's revelation had threatened to steal from her. One morning, after much contemplation, Sarah sat on her bed and decided it was time to reach out again. With a deep breath, she typed out a message. "I can't change what you did, but I choose to forgive you." As soon as she hit send, something miraculous happened. It felt as if a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, nor did it absolve Jake of his mistakes, but it was a step toward freeing herself from the anger that had weighed her down. Determined to take control of her health and future, Sarah sought medical advice about living positively. She learned about treatment options and how to manage her health effectively, while also focusing on emotional well-being through therapy and mindfulness practices. Months later, Sarah sat in a doctor's office, her heart pounding as she awaited her test results. The doctor entered with a smile that lit up his face like sunshine breaking through clouds. "Sarah," the doctor said, "your latest tests show no trace of the virus." Tears streamed down Sarah's cheeks as relief washed over her like a tidal wave. It was a dreamlike experience that brought a deep sense of freedom. "I can't believe it," she whispered through sobs filled with gratitude. A mixture of disbelief mixed with overwhelming joy, resonating deep within every fiber of who she was becoming, anew each day since choosing forgiveness over resentment. As Sarah walked out of the clinic, the sunlight enveloped her in a warm embrace. She felt lighter, freer, ready to embrace the life she had fought so hard to rebuild. Forgiveness had not only freed her from anger, but also opened doors leading toward healing beyond measure imaginable before now. Forgiving Jake hadn't been easy, but it had been necessary for her own healing, her own peace. She glanced at her phone one last time. No messages from Jake, but for the first time since their meeting, she felt truly free. Sarah's decision to forgive Jake, despite the pain he caused, allowed her to reclaim her life and find peace. Forgiveness can free individuals from the shackles of emotional pain and suffering. By the way, if you love these kinds of stories, don't forget to show some love by hitting the like and subscribe button. Until next time.